Hey, what's going on? This is Seth Williams from the REtipster blog. In this video, we're going to be talking about my recent experience of getting new windows installed in one of my rental properties. Particularly what the experience was like, what the end product was like, and how I was able to justify this kind of investment for an income-producing property. So stick around and we'll get into it. Okay, so I wanted to make this video for two reasons. First reason is I've owned this rental property since 2011, and it's a pretty old building, and the windows that I inherited with the property have never really been great. I think they're probably like from the 60s. I mean, they work, but not very well, and they certainly don't look that good. So I've always kind of wanted to replace these windows, and this seemed like a really good opportunity to do it and show you guys what the experience was like. But the problem is with a rental property like this, it's kind of hard to justify sinking, over 10 grand into a property just to buy all new windows when, I don't really know when I'm going to get that money back. It's not going to do great things for my cash flow on this property, and it was really hard to make the decision to say, yes, let's spend that kind of money when I didn't really know, if it was going to increase my revenue at all and how long it would take to get that money back. So that was kind of a dilemma I was having. I kind of wanted to work through that with you. But another reason I wanted to make this video is to take you along for the journey and show you what my experience was like with a company called Window World. In Window World, maybe you've heard of them before. They're a pretty huge company. They've got franchise offices in pretty much every major market throughout the United States. And the reason I wanted to pick them is because chances are they're located somewhere near you. And if you ever want to get new windows, either for your primary residence or a rental property or whatever, you can kind of see what my experience was like, what the end product looks like, and you'll just sort of have an idea for what you'll be getting if you decide to do this with one of your properties. And granted, I think it really depends a lot on what kind of window you want. Window World has a few different tiers in terms of quality. If you want to spend the least amount possible, there's a very basic type of window they have called, I think, the 2000 series. I ended up getting the 4000 series, which, to the best of my knowledge, is a pretty similar product to the 2000 series. It just has some improvements in the way that it's designed and constructed. Window World also has a 6000 series, which is like a top-of-the-line product. Say if I was going to replace all the windows in my home, that's probably what I would be getting. Another thing I like about Window World is the fact that they handle pretty much everything in the process from end to end. So there are a ton of window manufacturers out there. I mean, there is no shortage of options, but not all window manufacturers will actually come and install the windows for you. They'll basically just sell you the window, and it's kind of up to you to find a contractor who's going to do a good job and do it correctly. Window World works a little bit different, where they'll actually come out and measure the windows, price them, go through all the different options you can get. They actually manufacture them for you, and then they even come out and install them for you. And there's a lifetime transferable warranty that comes with them. So if the windows ever stop performing the way that they're supposed to, they'll come out and literally replace the windows for free, which is a pretty good deal. Now, there are other window companies in my area that can do a very, very similar thing. Window World is not the only company that does this, but the reason I wanted to choose Window World is because I know that they're pretty much the biggest outfit out there, and there's probably one near you as well. If I picked one of these Michigan-only companies, that's obviously not going to apply to you if you're not in Michigan. So I just thought Window World would be a good fit for this kind of review that I'll be doing. So what I want to do in this video is take you along with me. I'm going to go take a trip to the property while the guy is there installing the windows. I'm going to just give you an idea for what the windows look like before, during the installation, and after the process. You can kind of get an idea for what these windows look like, how they operate, and just the level of quality that you'll get. So why don't you come along, I'll take you to the property and we'll get a better look. So this is what the duplex looks like from the outside. As you can see, it's not the prettiest property. It could probably use a paint job. I think that's going to be my project for next year. And just in terms of the windows, they're clearly not the most current, up-to-date windows. I'm not sure what year these things were installed, but as you can see, they've got these exterior storm windows that the tenants have to monkey with. And even then, they're still not the most efficient windows in the winter time. So they're just definitely out of date. It could certainly use some updating. This right here was the inside of the bathroom window. As you can see, the tenants put some kind of like paper over it, probably for privacy reasons. The windows did open and close, so they worked from that standpoint. But pretty much everything else about them was not the nicest kind of window to have to live with. So you can see just from the outside there was paint flaking off. They're just definitely very old windows. When I first got to the property, I saw this slider sitting out. This window alone is about $700. And the reason this kind of window is helpful in this type of property is because if you see right here, there were these 3 windows side by side by side. And normally if I were to replace each one of those windows, it would be about $350 per window. But something Window World can do is instead of buying 3 windows, you can just get 1 window like this slider and replace them all in one shot. And as you can see, it lets in a lot more light, so much that it kind of ruined the exposure for this video. When I got to the property, the installer had already taken out a few of the older windows. As you can see, this is what the interior frame looked like. I'm pretty sure there was lead-based paint on here, and he was having to work around that by following some procedures and protocol. Whenever he would take these windows out, he would have to put them in a plastic bag like you see here before they put it in the landfill, just to make sure no paint chips or dust fly anywhere. If you've got a property with lead-based paint, chances are it's going to cost a little extra to deal with that hassle. As you can see here, it's pretty quick and easy for the installer to get those windows in there. I'd say it probably took him like 1 minute per window to just slide it in and put the screws in each corner. So it's a pretty quick and easy process. This particular installer was a great guy to work with. He had to work around some hassles with the tenants who hadn't taken down the hardware or moved their furniture. He was a really fast worker, just did a great job and didn't complain about anything. This is kind of what the windows looked like when they were installed. The windows that I got were double hung windows, which basically means you can adjust them from either the top or the bottom if you want to. And the nice thing about these windows is that they pivot on these pins, so you can fold both the top and the bottom in and clean everything from the inside rather than climbing up on a ladder and washing them from the outside if and when you ever want to do that. So it's kind of a nice little luxury to have with these types of windows. This is what those new windows look like from the outside right after he slid them in. As you can see, they haven't been wrapped yet. Once he put some wrapping on it, this is sort of what they looked like in the final finished state. As you can see, they're pretty sharp. They look really uniform and kind of make the whole property look a lot more well put together. This is what the side of the duplex looks like with all of those new windows put in there. Something else that was cool was on each of the bathroom windows in this duplex, I was able to get what they call frosted glass. So it's sort of an obscured look where you can't really see in or out, but it does let in all the same amount of light. So if you want some privacy built into the bathrooms, you can get this kind of glass and it works pretty well. You don't even need to have curtains if you don't want them. Another cool thing about these windows is that the Window World logo is right on them. And this can be really helpful just to identify that, hey, these windows are from Window World. And if there's ever any question about where these windows were manufactured, say if you want to use the lifetime warranty to get a window replaced, there's no question about who you need to call to do that. I know the windows in my house don't have any branding on them at all. So if I wanted to contact the original window company about some kind of warranty, I can't even do that because I don't know where they're from. But with the Window World, they make it very clear by putting their branding on all their windows. And as you probably know, energy efficiency standards have come a long way in recent years. Anything manufactured today is a lot more efficient than it was even just 10 or 20 years ago. These are some of the numbers for the windows that I had installed. To be completely honest, I have no idea what any of these numbers mean, but I have to imagine it's a lot better than the windows that were there before. Alright guys, so there you go. That was my experience with Window World. Hopefully you found that helpful. Again, I gotta say, I think they're pretty great windows. I was really impressed with the service that they provided. It took about 8 weeks from the day I ordered the windows to the day that they were installed. So it took a little bit of time for that to happen, which wasn't a big deal. So one other thing we obviously have to talk about before this video is over is the cost. From a cash flow standpoint, does this make financial sense to do? And if the numbers don't add up, is this something you should do anyway, or should you just go ahead and live with the horrible windows that you currently have in your property? What's the answer to that? Personally, just looking at my situation, this property is in a pretty solid Class C neighborhood, so rents are not through the roof. I don't make a fortune each month from this property. And when you look at adding new windows like this, I would say at the most, I might be able to increase rent anywhere from like 20 to 50 bucks a month, maybe. And it's possible that I couldn't really increase it at all. So it's not like there is a guaranteed higher income as a result of ordering these windows. However, I do think there are some other things to consider. I'd say first and foremost, in theory, from an appraisal perspective, installing new windows in a duplex like this can potentially increase the resale value. And there's actually some data to back this up, which I'm going to link to beneath this video. You can feel free to check that out. To be honest, I don't really think that's a big enough reason by itself to install windows like this on an income producing property, but it is one thing to consider. Another thing you can consider is how bad are the current windows on your property in the first place? Are they like awful? Like, are they broken? Are they letting in tons of air? Are they icing up on the inside of the windows in the wintertime? Like, if they are just in horrendous shape, then it may be something that, like, just to be a decent landlord, you should do that, because it's really kind of a lousy thing to do. And it sort of gives real estate investors a bad name altogether when landlords just leave their properties in a horrible condition and make their tenants live through that kind of thing. So that's another thing to consider. If the windows are not in horrific shape, if they're just like sort of bad, then I don't know, it may or may not be worth that. Another thing to consider is the energy savings. If you are the one who is paying the gas or electric bill at this property, there's almost certainly going to be some kind of noticeable difference in that cost each month as a result of getting these windows installed. At least that's the case in my situation, because the comparison from the old windows to the new windows was quite a leap in improvement. Now, if you aren't paying that bill, then I guess that reason kind of goes out the window, though it would also potentially help your tenants, if they're the ones paying that bill, have more cash flow and less likely to miss payments to you. I think that's kind of a wishy-washy reason. I'm not sure that I would really base it just on that, but it's something you might want to consider. And if none of those reasons are good enough, another thing just to keep in mind is that having high-quality windows could potentially give you better options in tenants. If you're in any kind of market or economy where good tenants are hard to come by for some reason, having really nice new windows is going to make your property look and feel a lot nicer and just be a lot more functional when people can open the windows and when windows do the job they're supposed to do. And if you want to have your pick of the best tenants, good windows can be another mark in your favor in terms of making your property the kind of place that people want to live in. Now, when you look at the downsides of getting new windows in a property like this, to me, there's only two real downsides that come to mind. And the first one is a huge one, and that is the cost. As we've talked about, it's just really hard to cough up this kind of cash for new windows and justify it from a cash flow standpoint. Now, granted, if your rental properties are in a market like, New York City or San Francisco, then it's probably an easy decision if your windows are in really bad shape. If you're in a market like mine, where adding new windows doesn't necessarily give you a huge benefit in terms of cash flow, then it's a lot more questionable. Ultimately, it's something that you have to decide for yourself based on the cash flow numbers you're currently getting and how much the windows are going to cost in your situation. I can't tell you definitively that yes or no it's worth it, but hopefully some of those pros and cons just give you an idea for what the good and the bad of the situation are. And the only other downside I could think of is just the hassle of it. I mean, first of all, meeting the person to get your windows measured, and then also getting the installer in a couple months later to install the windows. If you got tenants that are in the property, or if you're living in the property, you kind of have to work around each other and make room for them. It just sort of comes with the package when you're doing new windows like this. But anyway, I hope you guys got something out of this video. Hopefully you kind of benefited just from seeing what my experience was like. Again, you totally don't need to use Window World. That's just who I use because I thought it would be a pretty relevant, applicable company to most people throughout the US. The windows turned out great. I think they look beautiful. And if you ever want to work with them, they're probably a pretty decent outfit to work with. So anyway, thanks again for sticking with me. I appreciate you watching, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon. See ya.